Good afternoon, everyone. This is Krista King Oaks, Youth Services Consultant with the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. Thank you for joining us today for our original webinar, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, Best Practices from Kentucky Public Libraries. A reminder that today's training and all trainings provided by KDLA are made possible by the Institute for Museum and Library Services. You will have a chance to download the slides from today's show at the end of the webinar, and we hope you will stay tuned to take a very brief survey to help us maintain our support and funding from IMLS. I will be monitoring the chat box if you need any assistance throughout today's webinar. Also, should you have trouble with the audio, there is an audio wizard set up in the main top bar of your screen. I want to thank today's three presenters, Christy Krauss, Regional Director with the Dolly Parton Foundation, and our library directors, Charlotte Keeney with the Pulaski County Public Library in Somerset, and J.C. Morgan with the Campbell County Public Library in Newport. Without further ado, I'm going to turn today's presentation over to our first presenter, Christy Krauss with the Dollywood Foundation. Take it away, Christy.
Thank you so much, Krista, and thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. I do apologize. This voice is not Dolly Parton, but it is the voice of Christy Krauss, and I'm the Regional Director for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. Dolly's dream is to ensure that every child has access to high-quality, age-appropriate books. And for the past 15 years, I have worked diligently to help make that dream a reality, and the public libraries have been a great friend of Dolly and her program. During today's session, what I'd like to do is to provide you with a historical overview of the Imagination Library, an operational overview of how it all works, and certainly we won't cover everything in that, but we can at any point take a deeper dive if you want me to come out to your local community and talk about specific operations. And then last but certainly not least, we're going to highlight the Imagination Library and some of those specific communities there in Kentucky who are doing such a wonderful job. Nobody tells the story of the Imagination Library really better than Dolly herself. So Krista has assured me that the video that I've provided to her will upload in the chat window. And I just want to provide you with, in Dolly's own words, what the Imagination Library program is.
All right, everyone, this is Krista again. I am getting ready to place a link to a 5-minute YouTube video into the chat box. Once that link pops through on your chat window, and I'm sorry, I'm having just a momentary glitch here with our computer. There we go. You can click on that. It will open up the video in your own internet browser. Just watch on your own, and then please let us know in the chat box when you are done, and we'll return to the presentation. Thank you. All right, everyone. This is Krista again, KDLA. Looks like we are done with our first video. If for any reason you had difficulty and you could not access the video just then, I will send out all of the links with your wrap-up certificate and slides.
Thank
Christy?
you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Krista. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Instead of the PBS spotlight, let's just go right on into operations and a little bit of historical context. So Dolly developed this program back in 1995, and in the original days, it was only intended for her hometown of Sevier County, and it really was a way to inspire children to love books and reading, and it was also a way to pay tribute to her dad. So when we talk about the Imagination Library program, we often talk about it in terms of the head and the heart. So it's a very simple program in its design, yet there's a lot of great impacts behind it. So how does all this work? You know, it sounds so simple. We just want to get books into the hands of children. We're going to target children 0 to 5, but there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes into that. So really what our team at the Dollywood Foundation does is we form partnerships in an effort to promote literacy and to serve children. And as I said, our target age range is birth to age 5. And everything that is about the design of this program is intentional. Dolly wants this not to be deemed as a charity, but rather a gift. And that's why the books are sent specifically to the children in his or her own name, and it's packaged in such a way that it's designed to create that bond and inspiration for kids and books. And so I do have one other video, and I do apologize that we have to kick back and forth, but I know you guys are flexible. So let's take a deeper dive into what it takes to get an Imagination Library book into the hands of a child in Kentucky. So Krista, if you could just share that next video with us.
The link is in the chat box, same as before. It will pop up in a separate internet browser from the webinar screen. Just let us know in the chat box when you are done. Thank you. right, looks like people are finishing up with the video. So Christy, we can return to you.
Thanks, Krista. I hope you found that helpful. And as I said earlier in the presentation, whenever I talk about the Imagination Library Program, I talk about it in terms of the head and the heart. And so while this is a program that makes us feel good and really pulls at the heartstrings, there's a lot of science behind it as well. There's been lots of research done on the Imagination Library Program, and all of the outcomes show statistically significant increases in early childhood indicators. And Dolly has a phrase that what once was viewed as common sense is now common science. So we're really catching up in terms of the science world about what reading aloud to children can do. So there's some long-lasting impacts of this program. Just a quick overview of our current stats. We currently are mailing over 122 million books to children. We have programs in 5 countries, and we're just growing by leaps and bounds. At any point, if I can be of assistance to you, if you want to bring the Imagination Library Program to your community, that's what I do, and it's free of charge. You can call me anytime, and I'll come to your community and provide you with the model and the steps to have a successful Imagination Library Program. So thank you so much for your time and attention today.
All right, Christy, thank you so much for your information. Again, you will have Christy's contact information at the end of today's session if you would like to reach out to her for more details about how to find a champion and partner in your local community. With that, we're going to transition over to Charlotte Kinney, the director at the Pulaski County Public Library.
Thank you, Krista. Christy, we love this program and are so honored to be a part of it. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library in Pulaski County actually started in 2013. The Rotary Club, several of those members approached our children's librarian, which was Miss Carol at the time, and myself, and they were so excited about this program and come and presented some things to us, gave us the names of people to get in contact with about the program, and they wanted to be one of our major donors for this program. So, of course, we jumped on board all about early literacy. In fact, 45% is the latest stat for the children in Pulaski County that are ready for kindergarten. And actually, Christy, this is up from when we started. So I would like to think that it is due to this program. We have right now, currently, 994 children enrolled. Now, last month we graduated 29. I have got lots of comments from parents that talk about how upset their child is that they're not going to get another book in the mail because they have aged out. But they totally understand that it's for the little ones. And to date, we have graduated 1,654 children from the program. We get, our program is done a little different than I think maybe some of them are done. The library does not give any money to the Imagination Library. All of our money is raised through generous donors. We have a board of 12 members. 3 of those are library employees, and we all go out and fundraise for this project. And we have groups that are donors every year. They just love the program. And what we do, we say it averages around $30 for one child, of course, to receive one book for the whole year every month. So if we have somebody come in that wants to just donate the $30, we have little cards that we can send to the person if they want to give it to somebody for their birthday or in honor of somebody or in memory of somebody. We have little cards that we can send to those people and let them know that someone has donated to them and sponsored a child in their name. We also get some money from Kroger. We're on that, and we also get money from Amazon Smile. And we have several local restaurants that participate with us. They have give back nights where they donate a portion of their proceeds to the Imagination Library. And that's not a huge fundraiser, but we usually get anywhere from $100 to $150 for one night. And anything that we get is really appreciated. One of our biggest supporters is Donato's. They really like to participate. And our next one we've got coming up November 21st. So we just put flyers out. We do have a Facebook page, and we have a website, and we put flyers on those sites. We also pass them out here at the library for them to take to the pizza place or wherever we're going to get the discount. We also have a major fundraiser. That's the Sit and Read annual auction. This is something we came up with. We thought we would have to have some kind of a fundraiser that would raise a little bit more money so that we could guarantee that these kids in Pulaski County would get their books. So every year we do a sit and read auction. This year's auction is actually October 22nd, be coming up here pretty soon. It's a Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And what we do at this auction, it's a live auction. We have the organization actually purchases like chairs or rocking chairs or bookshelves, and local artists paint those and donate their time, and then we auction those off at a live auction. We have raised anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 doing that, so that's a pretty good fundraiser for us. This year we have a bookshelf, we have an old-fashioned children's desk from a school that has been painted. We do the measuring signs for kids that you can put on the wall and see how tall they are. And this program, we just love this program. We everywhere we go, we talk about this program, and the library supports it in any way we can other than monetary money, and we just don't do that. But now our Friends group does donate. They're donating $2,000 at the auction, so the Friends Club does donate to us. So anybody has any questions?
All right, thank you so much, Charlotte. That is a great primer and introduction to one unique way that a library can participate in this program. I do have a few questions that have come through the chat, but if that is okay, I would like to hold those until our next presenter, J.C. Morgan with the Campbell County Public Library.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Krista. It's hard to have Krista and Christy on the same phone call, but Christy Krauss is great. So she did the first presentation. Have y'all heard her? And she is really wonderful to work with. We've had so many questions, and she's been so good to us. But to focus on the cool stuff about this program first, it sells itself. Christy said that often when I was talking to her before we started up, and it's true. There's nothing wrong with free books. There's nothing wrong with seeing a kid's face light up. That whole mantra of laps, not apps, comes into it because an app is just not the same as sitting down, as Dolly said, sitting down with a child and reading a book and having that kid experience the book with you. The parent signs the book up. The kid gets the book for free. It's really that easy. There's no data mining. There's no salespeople. Nothing. It's just great all around. The program requires a local sponsor, and I saw that question pop up. The word sponsor is a little source of confusion there. So somebody in the service area has to sponsor the program, but it's not like a Donato's or a McDonald's or a Kroger. It's a person who will take financial or organization that will take financial responsibility for producing an average of about $2.10 per child per month to pay for the program in that service area. So we're going to come back to that thought in just a minute. But for us, we worked with the school districts in our county, and then the library pays a share, and so we together are the local sponsor. The program has a lot of branding. There was a lot of excitement when we started it up. People thanked us for it. It's a program that just gets people into the library and gets reading into the lives of so many children. I'm hoping that we'll see a drastic change in kindergarten preparedness over the next 5 years. So it's just a wonderful program, and there's so many resources for getting it going, just YouTube videos that either the Dolly Parton Imagination Library has put together or other people have put together, so there's plenty of stuff out there for you to learn about it. And, of course, there's Dolly. She is just such a tremendous voice for this. We had, I think it was around 50 people who were waiting. They're on a waiting list, waiting to see if a program is going to come up in your service area. So right out the gate, we just had all these people who just magically popped up into our book order system for us to approve, who were just waiting for this to come along. The cool stuff that is there, but there's problems with it. So it's just expensive for a library to do. For us, there's 6,000 kids in our county, estimated, under 5. And so even if just a third of them participated, 2,000 kids, that's $4,000 a month times 12 months, which is almost $50,000 a year, or even maybe a little over. We just needed some help. We couldn't make that a budget item for us. So we decided to make a partnership with the schools. Getting to those decision makers was hard. We had 7 school districts, that's 7 school boards, 7 school superintendents, all of that to work with in the beginning. And then one of those schools merged with another one, so that brought us down to 6, which is still a lot of fun to get 6 school boards going in the same direction. They're all going to say they're financially strapped, and some of them truly are, but for a school, the cost of this program is even just a percentage of what it costs per day for them to keep a kid in school. They don't have a lot of extra money, but they do have some. And we just tried to convince them to give it to us. So what we did was we had a dinner. We set that dinner, the date for that dinner, 2 months out, and then we invited all these school boards, and we re-invited them, and then we bugged them, and then we got people who knew people who were on school boards to bug the rest of the school board members, and we just pestered the crap out of them until we had a room full of people. And Christy actually came up for that and presented there. It was really wonderful. We took about 30 minutes at that dinner to talk about the program. There was some mingling time, and then there was just this 30 minutes of listening to us. We had one of the school superintendents who spoke. I spoke, my assistant director spoke, and of course Christy spoke. We invited other agencies that support kids, like the Head Starts and the daycares and preschools, and people who could tell these school board members, this is a good thing, this will make a difference in our community. And we told them this is actually one of the school superintendent, he told them, this is a legacy moment. This is a moment where you can make a difference that will outlast your life, and so you should take that opportunity. And that was powerful. That was probably the most powerful thing said that night, to me anyway. Even after that, though, it was tough. We had to keep at these school boards. I had to go to 2 different school board meetings to re-present all this stuff. I had to keep sending emails, and I had to remember keep my eyes on the prize. Don't get frustrated by all this. It's going to come together. So once we had them, we had a meeting, and we threw a contract down in front of them. And that contract is really just to make sure that everything that we do is in writing, because this program will outlast us. So any endeavor that is going to outlast you or just your memory, you should have a contract for it. So it established the reason for us all getting together and do this. It made the library's obligations clear. We're going to pay $1.05 per child per month, and we'll handle all of the administrative costs, which really aren't that much. And we will take care of the finances for the program. We'll do promotional materials for the program. We just really agreed to do all the heavy lifting, and all the schools had to do was come up with $1.05 per month per child, and then do their own promotion of the program using the stuff that we give them. It provides for a continued partnership. It allows a school district to get out, but they have to give us a year's notice before they get out and keep paying until they are actually out, and then we get to keep their money after they're out. So the escape clause is not really school friendly, and it's that way on purpose because change in school boards, a change in superintendents, and somebody could pull out, and then you're stuck with this burden. So I made it difficult. That we can dissolve the whole program if we wanted to, but it would have to be by a group vote, and then whatever money is there, we would split up between the participants. So the cost, I asked the schools to give us in advance a whole year at the 30% participation rate. So if 30% of the kids in the county were participating, they had to give us in advance $1.05 per month per child for all of those 30% of the total target population. And that was tough for them. They didn't know why they had to pay in advance. But the reason is, I'll get back to that. But we got them to do that, and then they're going to continue paying for those children as we get participants, because we have to pay for the continuing cost of the program. So one of the things we've learned recently is that it's $2.10, and I thought that was a flat rate, but it's not. It varies per book. So some books cost a little more than other books to be printed and mailed. So our average cost right now is about $2.50 per book per child, and we're actually operating at a loss. But because of that upfront money, we can handle that. So let me expand a bit on that upfront money. That upfront money helped us set up a bank account. We also had a donation from Dave Pilkey to help set up that bank account, and it provided for PR materials. A lot of these PR materials you have to buy through the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Anything you produce in-house has to be approved by them, so we just were buying things from them. The social media exposure is free for the program, but we paid to promote some of our social media posts. We had to set up a postal account for books that got returned, so we put about $1,000 in there to take care of returned books. And actually, the returned books belong to the library. We'll give them out at community events. We had to provide for an audit of the financial statements, so that initial money and ongoing money will help pay for that. And then we're going to set up a 501c3 that will actually house all that money. So we're in the process of doing that right now, and the legal costs associated with that will be paid out of that upfront money. And then the unexpected. So like I told you, I was thinking $2.10 per month per child, but it was actually closer to $2.50. So that's just, something that I didn't anticipate that money can take care of. So then it all began, and the PR team started working with the PR teams from the schools. We had to get into the book ordering system that the lady in the video mentioned and figure that out. It's not really terribly hard, but there's some learning hurdles to it. You have a profile you have to set up, and based on how your profile is set up, that's what the kids will see in the mailing label on the book and what will appear on Dolly Parton's Imagination Library website. You have your own little mini site there, so we had to figure all that out. So what we did was we did a very soft launch. I wouldn't really call it a launch in July this year. So we've only been operating for 3 months. And so July, we just asked library staff who had kids in that 0 to 5 range to do a paper application and sign their own kid up. And then we took those paper applications and we started entering them into the system. And from that, we figured out a bunch of different things. Like one of our staff members, her grandchild, who lived in North Carolina and participated in the program there, was now here in Campbell County. And so we had to figure out how to transfer children, how to request transfer of children, just things like that. And then in August, we went out and did a bunch of outreach events, Ready Fest, back-to-school festivals, that sort of thing, and gave parents paper applications. And so we got about 250 paper applications out of all that. But that taught us a lot more about, again, transfers of kids with wrong addresses, kids who were filling out forms who were aged out of the program, and how we were going to deal with all that. And then the big launch was actually in September, on September the 5th, which happens to be the library's birthday. We created all these social PR kits for the schools, so them and us, the whole big social media blitz, and we had it in the newspapers and the online news sources, and we just did as much as we could to make September the 5th the big day. And I can tell you, it was a big day. We had, in the next 3 days, about 1,000 registrations for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. Now, you have to approve every single one of those registrations. It's only a two-step process. You click this little button that says verify the kid's address, and about a second later the address is verified, and then you hit approve. That's all it takes. But when you do that 1,000 times, it just takes a lot more time than you realize. So there were actually 3 of us working on it and dealing with it for took us about 2 days to get through all of those 1,000 kids. And of course, they keep streaming in while you're doing it. We're really happy with the results, but I'll be honest, we're way more successful than I thought. I had budgeted that we would get to 1,800 kids by the end of this year, and as of right now, we are at 1,816 kids. So in just a little over a month, we're over what I anticipated us getting to in a year. But as one superintendent said, it's a wonderful problem to have. We had to figure out how to divide up those costs with the schools. Dolly Parton's reports don't really think of things the same way we do, but there is an Excel spreadsheet you can download, and we figured out how to manipulate that so that we can pass along the school's cost. They each have zip codes that their service areas are in, so we can just divide it up by zip code and figure out how to bill those schools. And of course, we have to figure out this whole 501c3 thing, but that'll happen. Overall, we're just loving it. It's been a great PR piece for us. It shows that the public really values that printed book, makes us good community partners. It's been a wonderful partnership with the schools, and it is very difficult to work with even one school, but 6 of them can be a nightmare sometimes. When I started this job, this director job, 17 years ago, I told the staff that I wanted to be a library that made a difference, and I think this will. I think this is something that's definitely going to outlive me. I think we'll see the improvement in the kids and what they learn, and I think it's just a great thing. So maybe Christy's still on the phone. I misspelled Christy's name once earlier in an earlier slide, but I got it right on this slide, Christy. So I'm sorry about that. If you have any questions, you're welcome to call me or email me or whatever you want.
All right, thank you so much, JC. And if all 3 of our presenters can come back on the line, I will start filtering back through our questions. We've had several great ones. I want to make sure we get addressed. Let's see. I'm going to start back with the mention of a wait list. JC, I believe you mentioned that during your presentation. Could you elaborate a little bit more about that and what you meant by that?
Okay, so we did not have an Imagination Library program in Campbell County, but people were able to sign up to be on a wait list in case a program came up in the area. And so there were, I'd say, about 50 or 60 people who were on the wait list. When we turned on the BOS, and that's, you work with the foundation to get it turned on. So when we turned it on, we just automatically had these people who had already registered. And so all we had to do is go in and approve them, and that was it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We had another. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Charlotte.
We have a wait list also, and theirs is a little different than what JC was talking about. Our board came up with that we could only afford so many children to be enrolled, and that magic number is 1,000. So we do keep a wait list of kids that until some drop off, and we add those on. Like JC worked with the schools. Our schools would not work with us. They, of course, gave the song and dance that they had no money. They couldn't put anything into this. But we did get money from fiscal court and city council, which was a major breakthrough. And the kids that we target are mainly at-risk kids that maybe don't use the library. We go to family court. We've got a teenage moms program, and we check those before we put them in the system and see if they have a library card. So that's how we know if they're actual library users.
Excellent.
And most we're getting are not library users.
Excellent. That's a very great point, Charlotte. A couple of questions that go together. First, is there an average cost per child? And to go along with that, have either of your libraries committed to a finite or specific number of years in either of your partnerships?
So Christy answered that question. The average cost is $2.10 per month nationally. But it can vary. We found in the last invoice we got, it was about $2.50. So right now we're operating at a little bit of a loss, but we had the money to take care of that. I forgot the second part of that question. Oh, did we have a time limit? No. The contract we made with the schools, it goes on until we decide to dissolve it or somebody gets out of it on their own, and it's not an easy exit clause.
Charlotte, do you have anything?
Yeah, our program at Pulaski County, they have their own 501c3 now. I did mention that there are 3 library employees that serve on that board. That board is a very strong board, members in the community that are very early childhood minded. And as far as I know, this thing will go on forever until somebody else does something about it.
And anyone, Krista, anyone that's interested, I can help put together a cost projection for you so you can get your arms around the financial obligation. This is an inclusive offering, so every child under the age of 5 within a service area qualifies, but we do have some local data that we can plug into a cost calculator. And even though JC right now is seeing a bit of a higher cost, at the end of the year, when you average the monthly cost, you'll see that come in at about $2.10 per month. And to speak about the commitment, we're certainly looking for sustainable programs. So we want to start programs that are going to go on infinity. So, you know, we do have a contract that you sign with us on an annual basis, but at any point, if life happens and you lose a funding source or, you know, you just think, hey, this is not what I thought it was going to be, we certainly have a pretty easy exit clause in our contract.
Another great source of information for those of you who are interested in examining what the initial startup costs might be in your service area. In addition to getting in touch with Christy and their data, you could probably also turn to the early childhood reports from the Governor's Office of Early Childhood, because that will also break down your 0 to 5 population and give you some more specific details about those at-risk populations and statistics on the school readiness measurement in your county.
Hey, Krista?
Yeah.
One thing about that is that the data that we were using to estimate our population was the census, so the last one was 2010. And, of course, all of those kids are now not 0 to 5 anymore. I learned just recently that the census, the traditionally the most undercounted population is the 0 to 5-year-olds, and that happens for a lot of reasons. They're in foster care, they're in some sort of adoption process, they're staying with Granny and you just forget about them, or they're staying with Granny and Granny doesn't count them because she thinks you will and you don't. So they're an underrepresented population in the census itself. So all those complete count committees that are going on out there across Kentucky and across the nation right now are very important so that we get accurate numbers.
Thank you so much for that, JC. Another great question, is there an option to enroll in the program for a partial year to reduce cost per child? So, for example, instead of doing 1 book per child per month for a total of 12 books a year, could you opt to do a half a year or 6 books.
No,
Christy?
that's not an option. That's just not our model. I think that's very creative thinking, but we want to get as many books into that home and have that repetitive cycle of having books in the home. And so it is 1 book a month from the time a child is enrolled until the month that they turn 5.
And can we all talk a little bit more about that definition of a sponsor? I know JC touched a little bit on that, but I think that would also help to discuss potential funding as well as grant opportunities.
So Dolly Parton, there's a manual. You can get to it online. She has definitions for all this nomenclature that is used. And sponsor, local sponsor or local champion, I think they're called too, is just the entity in that service area. And it could be a city, it could be a county, it could be a zip code, who are agreeing to pay that cost per book per child every month. And so they have to come up with the money somehow. In Covington, Kentucky, there's a small imagination library that only serves the city of Covington, and that's just a guy who operating under, it has to be a 501c3 as well. So he got somebody in the diocese to agree to be a 501c3 umbrella for him, and then he personally raises the money every month to pay for the books. But he is the local sponsor for that. The 501c3 technically is, but that's the local sponsor. And so as a 501c3, yes, you can go after grants. We actually, Dolly Parton's website allows you to put a PayPal button up there so you can solicit private donations of, as Charlotte said, $30 a month, or in our case, we're doing $30 a year, or we could do, in our case, $25 a year. We had one lady who, this is such a sad story, her grandson died at the age of 4, so she'd been giving money to the Imagination Library program in Louisville because he lived in Louisville, and then when we started our program, she lives here, she gave us money as well, and so we reached out to her to see if she would talk about that more, and it turns out that the parents, her daughter, they had the son that died at the age of 4, but then they had another child who died at the age of 4 months, so it was just awful. But she's giving money to our program. So there are people who will privately donate as well. Does that help? Does that answer the question about sponsors?
Yes, I believe so. So, yeah, there are lots of different options, again, for that. And I think Campbell County presentation about, keeping the funding separately and in different streams. Can you just touch a little bit on that again, JC, about, auditing purposes and why you prefer to go that route?
Well, so we're working with the school district, so that's tax money, and of course it's the library's money, which is also tax money, so you want to be completely transparent about it. So in the contract with the schools, we told them that one of the things that we would provide is an annual audit of the finances. It's not, it won't be a complicated audit. There's a few costs here in the startup of buying promotional materials and all that stuff, but it's easily justified. And then the rest of it's just a monthly bill from Dolly Parton. So every month at the first of the month, they upload that database, and then they charge you for all the kids that are in that program, in your program at that moment in time. And so it's really just 12 invoices a year that you have to account for. And then we'll have to account for how we split it up between the schools. But it's not a hard job to audit that. It's just that transparency of with the tax dollars is what we were looking for.
Can you give any ballpark estimates for the setup or those upfront costs with becoming a 501c3 and the post office account, things like that?
I said we gave $1,000 to the U.S. Post Office to set up that account. We think that's probably going to, that might last us as long as a year, Christy, what do y'all estimate the return is? Is it something? It's a very low number.
It is a very low number, and it fluctuates a bit, but it's under 3%, I believe is the last number that I heard. So
it costs something around $2.40 or something like that per return book. So 1,800 times 0.03, whatever that number is I guess what we can expect. So that $1,000 should last a while. We had to hire a lawyer to write up the articles of incorporation for the 501c3, and he has not completed that, so we have not been billed. But I imagine it will be several hours of his time. So let's just say $1,000 there to get the articles of incorporation drawn up, and then after that, in-house will handle all the IRS paperwork to get the 501c3. So there's nothing but staff time cost there. The PR materials from Dolly Parton Foundation are not expensive at all. We probably have maybe $500 there, but we ordered enough for 50 daycares and preschools and 13 elementary schools, and then other things just to put out in the community, plus just a whole bunch of applications to take to all these outreach events and things that we're doing. So ours might be a little bit higher than other people. So I would say we're somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500 to $3,000.
Charlotte, would you like to speak any more about the financial piece?
Yes, I think someone had a question on mine about could the library not have put it as a budget line item. At the time, I think that we were one of the first libraries in Kentucky, and Christy may know the answer to that actually started this. And at the time, there was a little confusion as to whether we could put any taxpayer money toward this project. And so we just decided at that time that we would take it through our foundation, and it was under our foundation, library foundation, until they actually did their own 501c3. We're lucky in the fact that we have an attorney on the board, and also her husband is the city attorney. So she did all the paperwork for the 501c3. We just had to do the filing fee, and that's why no library money is in there. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't make a budget line item at some time if I saw that it was failing, but right now it seems to be working, so we're just going to leave it as is.
Excellent. Could either of you speak to the amount of library staff that you currently have involved in the project, and if there is a time of the year that is more staff intensive?
I can talk on that. We actually, like I said, we got 3 on the board. We have one up in our children's department that is in charge of putting, when the board tells her to put more children in, she is in charge of that. And that's actually all the people that we have involved that work at the library.
For us, we have one staff member who has this as it's just one of her duties, so it's not all that she does by any stretch of the imagination. That initial onslaught, I told you we've only been doing this for 3 months. So September, those first 3 days, it really did. It took us probably 3 people, about a half a day each, to get through those 1,000 kids. I would literally sit at meetings during that couple of days, and I'd have the Dolly Parton website pulled up on my phone, and I'd be approving kids while I was sitting at meetings. So it just took a while. But after that, we get, sometimes over a weekend, we've gotten 25 or 30. In a normal day, we'll get maybe 10 or so. And it only takes a couple of seconds to approve a kid. On the financial side, figuring out the spreadsheet took us a little bit of time, I'd say a couple of hours, and then of course, we'll have to invoice these schools. We're just doing that quarterly to cut down on the amount of time we spend with it. We're not going to charge them monthly. We'll just charge them quarterly. And we're not even going to charge them for the first quarter because the quarter ended, the way the billing cycles go from Dolly, it wasn't worth to bill the first quarter of operations. So January will be the first bill that they get, and it might take us an hour to put together those invoices and mail them out. So it's not a lot. Setting up the credit card, the PayPal thing, that took a few hours. But again, it's not astronomical. It's pretty simple. All the bugs to this have been worked out. I mean, they've been doing it since 1995. They've kind of got it figured out. I don't know how old the current BOS 2.0 is, though. Christy, how old is that?
It's gone through a couple of revitalizations. Gosh, I don't know. Time is a blur when you get my age. JC, I'm not really sure how long that's been up. But I know when I first started, everything was done through Excel spreadsheets. That's how we processed our orders. So I'd say within the last 10 years, it's the BOS has been in place.
One more clarifying question on the finances, that the schools reimburse the library, correct, or the library foundation?
Well, so we'll set up this 501c3, and then the 501c3 will invoice the schools. Right now, the library will invoice the schools, and they'll pay us back. So we're paying the bills every month, and then we just keep track of those bills and pass the school's share. They're paying $1.05 per child per month for the ones in their zip codes. And actually, on that point, it's been really interesting. I expected the Fort Thomas, which is a major city, a big city in Campbell County, about 18,000 people. I expected it to have the largest percentage of 0 to 5-year-olds, but it's actually Alexandria, the 41001 zip code, has almost twice as many as Fort Thomas does. So that proved to us that there is a large amount of growing families in southern Campbell County, which is evidence for us to say that we need a library down there. That's kind of what got us into the whole lawsuit thing, was trying to put a library down in southern Campbell County. But this proves that we were right. There are a lot of growing families down there. I kind of got on a tangent. Did I answer the question?
You did. No, thank you. And to kind of wrap up the question portion, we'll bring it back to Christy. Would you be able to, or do you know off the top of your head what the largest library system is that is involved in the Imagination Library? And if you have any other examples you may want to share of unique collaborations on the local level.
Yeah, outside, the largest library nationally is the D.C. Public Library, and I think they have about 30,000 children enrolled or something like that. Partners, this is a program that brings people to the table, so people that may not have been a supporter or necessarily a friend of the library, they can get behind this. So not only will it be a great benefit for the children of your community, but it can also be a great support for your public library. So, partnerships would look like United Ways, community foundations, family foundations, school systems, Rotary clubs. Really, it's just an easy program to bring people to the table. The Chamber of Commerce is a great friend of the program as well.
Excellent. Do any of our presenters have any final thoughts they would like to share with today's audience?
I'll say this. I knew about the program, but it was actually a retiring library director from Cincinnati who she lives in Campbell County, she encouraged me to do this. I started looking into it more, and I am so glad that we did. It has been a tremendous thing for us, a really good way for the library to get out in front of people and to get people using the library who don't normally. So I think it's just wonderful.
And I think it's a great program also. The kids that we're seeing in our area that are using it are the ones that need to be using it, that are not being brought into our building, and that's the ones we want to target. Not saying that we don't enroll the other children, we do, but that's our target area.
I actually called Charlotte right when we were starting to think about this just to see what her experience was, because I knew they'd been doing it for a long time.
Charlotte, you may be able to address this additional question that has come through the chat. How do you count the stats related to this project in your annual library report?
We don't. I don't know. Does JC count it since he is putting library money into it? Because we don't count it anyway on our annual report.
No, I wouldn't plan on counting it. I guess you could. You could count each one of those. We have 1,816 circulations, I guess you could say, every month. It just doesn't seem like it wouldn't really make that big of a difference. I hadn't even thought about that.
All right. And Christy, any final thoughts or tips you would like to share?
No, I just would like to say if anybody has additional questions, definitely reach out to me. As JC said, we've been doing this a while, and we've got all the bugs worked out of it. I can equip you with research, data, financial pictures, so definitely reach out to me, and I'll be as responsive as I can, and we'll work through whatever questions you have.
All right. I just want to thank everybody for today's webinar and all of our wonderful presenters, J.C. Morgan, Director at the Campbell County Public Library, Charlotte Keeney, Director with the Pulaski County Public Library, and Christy Krauss, Regional Director with the Dolly Parton Foundation. I am just so excited that we were able to make this happen, and as a very quick and small personal anecdote, I am a resident of Covington, Kentucky, as JC referenced during his part of the presentation, and I was so excited when I had heard from a neighbor that the program was coming to our community only months before my daughter was born. And so the first ever piece of mail that my daughter received was a book from the Imagination Library. It came on the same day as her birth certificate. So we've been very excited to participate in the program. It really is a special day when we're able to get in the mailbox and pull out something with her name on it. So we're just very happy that we could bring more awareness about this program to our Kentucky community. So just to quickly wrap up, remember you can find out more about training opportunities and workshops through KDLA's email distribution list. Specifically, Kayak is for the youth service librarians and staff. We have recently updated our youth services website with a brand new menu and a lot more content. So when you have a chance, please update your bookmarks and go take a look. Don't forget, we have great professional library science text and other materials, including thematic program kits and book discussion kits available through the state library. You can always find out about more upcoming webinars by visiting the KDLA Continuing Education calendar. Again, we want to thank the Institute of Museum and Library Services for making this webinar possible. And if you have just a few moments, please do consider taking the survey that you will find underneath the screen of today's webinar. As always, you can also follow the Library Development Branch of KDLA on social media. And now you can also download the handouts for today's webinar. Certificates and a link to the recording will be emailed out within the week. I want to, again, thank all of our presenters and our participants for tuning in to today's webinar. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.